If you or I were forced to make an analogy about leadership and running a race, I think it's possible that we may miss out on one of the most critical and least developed skills for a leader. There can be a natural gravitation toward the sprinter and winning the race in the short term with bursts of speed and strength, or maybe we look toward endurance athletes and staying the course over the long haul to win the race in the end. But I think we should think about leadership as a relay. Now, wait. You think I'm going to some rah-rah, we are all a team speech. I'm not talking about rah-rah. I mean the leader as a world-class relay team member. The magic of the relay are these few critical moments, these minuscule moments in light of the whole race, brief handoffs where the race is determined. They are almost invisible to see when handled masterfully or brutal to watch when fumbled. One of the most famous relays, the 4x100, is determined as much by the 60 meters of handoffs as the 340 meters of individual work. In track, this is known as the exchange zone, but for us, we're going to call them handoff zones. The moment where a baton is passed off from one runner to the next in a way that maximizes the speed and effectiveness of each. The runner passing off the baton has given their effort and potential and is now handing off ownership to the next runner in a way that allows them to maximize their own contribution. It's the space where the best teams in the world pick up the time that wins the race, and the space where mistakes often bring heartache and foil years of planning and preparation. Because we haven't been taught a simple and easy approach to mastering the handoff zone, we often find ourselves making one of these 4 types of bad handoffs. Handoff number 1, and possibly the most common, is the toss. The toss happens as a runner comes to the handoff zone so exhausted or distracted that they simply toss the baton hoping that the other runner catches it. This often looks like hiring or promoting someone and saying you're in charge of marketing or social media or 5th grade or youth ministry and hoping that they catch it and they get running with it quickly. Sometimes the toss works, which can give false validation about me as a leader or just the type of people who just know what to do. A successful toss of responsibilities is not a validation of my great leadership skills, but actually an extra validation of the team member who was able to overcome my weaknesses. Most often what we see with a toss of ownership is there's a small percentage of big wins and a small percentage of big losses. The most common reality, though, is that the person catching the baton is forced to fumble with it or drops it to the ground, extending the time that it takes them to get running and up to full speed. They eventually get running, but with a sense of hesitancy instead of clarity. The second type of bad handoff is the stop. The stop lives on the absolute opposite end of the spectrum of the toss, and while finding them in reality is rare, the thought process isn't so rare. The leader who stops for the handoff is so concerned about not dropping the baton that they come to a full stop before delicately handing the baton on. This often looks like not hiring someone or not handing off ownership until everything is completely outlined and every single responsibility is listed out perfectly in the documentation. Many times the stop actually comes from a really good heart place. We understand as leaders that we want to be fair and to give somebody the clarity they need to succeed, and we know that we don't have it all perfectly figured out. But 2 things inevitably happen, especially on small teams. We wait far too long to hand off ownership because of the time that it's going to take to get everything perfectly listed. Or we begin to believe that handing off ownership is not a valuable use of our time because of all the energy and effort we put into someone in a position where they may not even thrive. Bad handoff number 3 is the run along. The run along is where a leader hands off the baton to the next person and the connection is good, but they simply don't let go of the baton. They turn a 20-meter handoff zone into 50. And we can all imagine how ridiculous it would look with 2 people trying to run the race together. This looks like someone who takes all the steps necessary to hand off ownership only to stay connected to the responsibilities or the outcomes for far too long. This looks like us telling someone that they're responsible for the team, but that we're going to keep coming to all of the meetings and checking in on all of the projects and key steps in the process for the next 6 months. Some people point to the run along and say that's micromanagement, and that is possible, but I think well-intentioned leaders can really do this with pure motives. They want to see the person taking the handoff succeed, but instead of doing that through purposeful and consistent coaching, they keep their hand on the baton, slowing everyone down. And all of these bad handoffs and frustrations lead to the final option. Handoff number 4 is the no handoff. As a leader, we simply skip the handoff. But if there's no handoff, then there's no handoff zone, right? No, I think that actually drives the point home. When the no handoff means that we are literally going through the handoff zone and choosing not to hand off ownership. I am faster and it makes more sense to skip it. But every time I come through a handoff zone without making the handoff, I'm losing speed and strength until the inevitable reality strikes again that not handing off ownership of critical roles is one of the greatest bottlenecks to growth and seeing our vision realized. So we restart the journey, try the handoffs again, and without a different approach, we are destined to blame the handoff zone as opposed to our unwillingness to master it. Becoming a master of the handoff isn't a skill someone is born with. Some are naturally fast, some have God-given endurance, but becoming a world-class relayer requires skill and understanding of a specific process that allows one to hand off ownership from one person to the next in a way that maximizes the speed and impact of each. So what does it look like when a leader has mastered the handoff zone? It means a leader has a proven process for handing off key areas of ownership and responsibility. It looks the same every time, whether you're handing off ownership to someone on their first day or someone who is a proven veteran. As a leader, I must decide if I'm willing to do what it takes to master the handoff zone. Is it actually worth it? Is my inability to clearly communicate and hand off ownership limiting my team's potential or even my own potential? Am I tired of continually blaming or being frustrated with others for not taking ownership? Mastering the handoff zone doesn't remove the challenge to find people that are capable, coachable, and cultural fits. It just means being a self-aware leader who is confident that I'm doing everything I can to put people in a position to succeed. Hopefully some of this helped you to think through your own handoff zone and how you can improve it and grow in that. I'm here to serve leaders, help you create the role clarity that you must have to lead your team well and to see your vision realized. Hopefully this highlighted some areas where you can grow in your ability to master the handoff zone. If you're wanting to know more about how I help leaders do that with a one-page role clarity framework, make sure and click the link below.